Hey everyone. I wanted to take a minute and look through your Canvas page with you. Your assignment today, first thing you need to do is open the student notes. Click the student notes and it should open up in a PowerPoint. You can see here down at the bottom that it will open. I'm going to have to close there you go. All right, so that it opened in the PowerPoint. And then you're also going to have to open your class notes on the Article of Confederation. If you see it says type the notes in red as you go along, you'll need to save your notes, and then you will need to submit them. So let's take a moment and look at the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation, these are the strengths and weaknesses to the transition to our first Constitution. So in 1781, the Second Continental Congress met. They ratified the Articles of Confederation, and this was used to govern the United States during the American Revolution. But this document was very weak, and it provided a very weak central government. Why did they do this? This is because they feared that if they didn't do this, that it would end up, they would have a government just like England, and they did not want one person to hold all the power in the government. So they wanted to keep the national government small, make states powerful. There were some great things that came about when they created the Articles of Confederation, like declaring war, establishing peace treaties, signing peace treaties with foreign nations, and printing money. They also served as our government, like I stated. They created the post office, and then they organized and regulated our western territories. However, there were a lot of weaknesses that came about. For instance, they could not require taxes to be paid. They could not regulate trade between states. They could not enforce federal laws. And they could not raise a national army. All four of these things are going to cause huge problems. Remember, at this point in time, each state has its own currency. Trading between the countries or between the states is going to be very hard when they all have different currencies. The legislature is unicameral, which means all states are going to receive one vote, and in order to pass anything through the federal government, every state had to agree, and the likelihood of that happening is very slim. So basically what we're seeing here is 13 individual countries instead of one country uniting together. What I want you to do next is you have a notes page with squares on it. I want you to read through each scenario and explain how each problem could be solved under the Articles of Confederation. So I want you to take a few minutes to do that. Okay, now that you finished that, I want you to answer as you're summarizing questions. Number 1, why did Americans want to create a weak national government? Number 2, what was the country able to accomplish under the Articles of Confederation? What are some of the positives that came from this time period? Number 3, what struggles did the country experience under the Articles of Confederation? So there are a lot of problems that the federal government could not solve at this time. Number 1, no money to be able to fix the infrastructure, things like roads and canals. States are in constant conflict with each other over land territory, over sea territory. There's no national army to protect against foreign attacks. And there's no separation of powers, which also means there's no checks and balances. So our founding fathers are very frustrated with this. They gather back together in 1787. Delegates from all 13 states meet to revive the articles. They go in, they try their best to revise the articles, and after about 4 months, they throw the articles out and they write what we know as the Constitution of the United States of America. They came out with a brand new document. In this document, there were several compromises made. First one, the Great Compromise. This means they're combining two ideas, such as your bicameral legislature. This is going to be your House of Representatives, your Senate. This is what we have today, a bicameral legislature. They also have the Three-Fifths Compromise. There were a lot of arguments during this time about whether or not to count slaves as population. Reason being is because your House of Representatives are elected by the people, and the number of people in your state determine how many representatives you have. So, to compromise, the delegates agreed that a slave will count as 3/5 of a person in the state population counts in order to receive another person in the House of Representatives. There are 7 articles in our Declaration of Independence and 27 amendments. Remember, your first 10 amendments are known as your Bill of Rights. What I want you to do now is I want you to look at the bubble map. You are going to compare and contrast the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. The purple 3 buttons here, or bubbles, those are going to be your similarities. The outside bubbles are going to be your differences. In order to write in your bubbles, you are going to have to do insert, and you are going to have to click text box, and you are going to have to draw your text box in the bubble in order to type in it. Once you finish this assignment, click File, click Save As. When the box pops up, save your document, and then submit this document to Canvas. If you have any questions about this, please email me. I will get back to you as soon as possible.